Hey, Chris, let me ask you this question as we get started here. Your former teammate, Major Applewhite, gets the head coaching job at the University of Houston. He's only there for a year as a coordinator. How's he going to be as a head coach? He's young. I mean, he's really young.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, I think the one thing, at least Major, is, he's been around some smart football people throughout his college coaching career. I mean, he started off with Nick Saban a little bit. Of course, he went back with Mac Brown and company down there. And then Tom Herman. Tom was a guy that was at Texas when we were there playing. So the one thing I'll say, I'm sure he's learned a lot from Tom Herman in 1 year, too, because Tom Herman is a true X's and O's, hard-nosed football coach. I mean, you don't get to get on Urban Meyer's coaching staff unless you're that type of guy. I mean, that's just really plain and simple. So I think Major is a pretty smart football mind. He knows how college football works, all the intricacies of it, and I do think he'll be successful there at Houston.
Let me take you back to college. And we had this conversation the other day on air. And I don't know if I've ever asked you this, and BT didn't know if he'd ever ask you as well. What was that interaction with you and him when you went down to Texas?
It was weird.
Yeah, exactly.
Weird. Yeah, it was. I mean, he didn't treat me very good the first few years I was there. I mean, he really didn't. So I had a hard time getting over that. And then, when I kind of became the man, and of course I was the leader of the team, and I think he knew. I mean, you guys know me enough too. I'm certainly not a shy person. I've got personality, and I'll talk your ear off if you let me. He tried to kind of make up at the end, but I couldn't get out, the first year and a half or two where he kind of treated me like crap. And, of course, everybody on the team was telling me things he's saying behind my back.
Ooh.
But what made it worse is that Mac Brown made us room together on road games.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which was because he was trying to prove to the media that we were still friends. And it just – from that standpoint, that's where my experience at Texas was miserable. Everything else was awesome. I mean, come on, it's Texas, the playing atmosphere, the college itself, the city of Austin were truly amazing. But, yeah, that was definitely one of the things I had to go through. And, of course, it divided the fan base, too, because there were certainly a lot of people up there that were or down there, I should say, that were mad that I was a so-called Yankee as a starting quarterback for the Texas football team. So they weren't going to like me in general, no matter how well I did. There was a little bit of a divide there with the fan base.
Chris, why didn't you just, Chris is he's thin, wiry, strong, but Chris is really tall. What are you, almost 6'5", right?
Yeah, I'm just a hair under 6'5".
So
right?
What is he, about 5'9"? Why didn't you give him a wedgie and stuff him in a locker and smack him around if he was that much out of line here?
We had a few little verbal altercations like that a little, but no, it never got physical. But yeah, I would have liked my chances, that's for sure.
I would have put money on you. Chris Sims with us here on Tiki and Tierney. All right, Chris, you and I have spoken a lot on Tops, more off camera, about the regression of Blake Bortles.
Yes.
I want to ask you a different way, and I think because, Blake Bortles has been dissected enough at this point, I think most of our audience kind of knows where he's at. Here's my question for you. We talk about the year-to-year growth of quarterbacks. Outside of Bortles, and I know you watch a lot of film,
right?
Which quarterback has really taken a step back this year that you just don't understand why?
Oh, well, that's a good one. I mean, Bortles, I think, first of all, was just held a little too high of a standard going into the year because we all looked at his stats going into the year and went, 4,500 from last year, and Jacksonville is kind of on the rise. But he really has always struggled throwing the football. And I know I've said this to you, BT, like when we're off air, like, hey, receivers who are slow don't get drafted at number 3, then I would never draft a quarterback who can't throw the ball at number 3. And that was my issue with Blake Bortles being drafted so high in the draft in general. I think if I had to look at guys where I just go, it's disappointing that they maybe haven't developed a whole lot. I mean, Brock Osweiler, certainly, that play has been very disappointing. And I think a lot of it goes into what we talk about with Blake Bortles. Again, it's a guy that this is the NFL. It's a passing league. The rules are set up to favor the passers right now, and he's just not a average NFL thrower of the football. So that's disappointing, and I look at it and just go, of course, it's really stupid that Houston gave him $38 million guaranteed. The other guy I would just look at, and this kid has talent. He really does. He just has to continue to grow as a quarterback. Would maybe be Tyrod Taylor. I just would like to see Tyrod Taylor get better within the pocket and making throws down the middle of the field. You break down Tyrod Taylor, Of course, he runs a lot. We know that. But all his completions come outside of the numbers. And, of course, when he scrambles and gets outside the pocket, those are where those completions are going to come as well. But at the end of the day, you're going to play really good teams at some point that are going to stop you from getting outside of the pocket, and you're going to have to win games in the pocket. And I just haven't seen Tyrod make that next level jump since he's been there in Buffalo.
Chris, is that a height issue?
I do think height is certainly part of that issue because they get the shorter quarterbacks, and I even see this with Russell Wilson at times, they get scared to pull the trigger down the middle of the field at times. They might actually see the receiver and go, ooh, he's open, but I'm not sure if I can see all the defenders out there. So you know what, I'm really athletic. I'll tuck the ball away. I'll move in the pocket and try to find a clear path or a clear throwing lane to where I can see everything all right. But, yeah, you're exactly right, Tiki. Height does have a factor in that kind of thing.
That's good analysis. Talking to Chris Sims, of course, Bleacher Report, NFL analyst, played at Texas and played in the NFL as well. Of course, good stock. His dad is Phil, and he's with us here on Tiki.
Speaking of height, let's go the other way. Brock Osweiler is enormous. He's 6'8". Does that have an effect on, one, how he releases the ball, how receivers see it, and what's been his issue? Because, I mean, he's making a lot of money to kind of be the worst quarterback in the league.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, listen, the one thing I'll say about Brock, he's actually a better athlete than people give him credit for. You watch Texans games, I mean, some of the best things he does week in and week out is go run and get a first down on 3rd and 6 or 3rd and 7.
It's the only thing he does, Chris.
It is. You're exactly right. It's the only thing he does. I was trying to be somewhat nice there. But, yeah, there's a lot of surface area there to hit, too. So when people do hit him in the legs, I look at it and I always kind of cringe. I'm like, oh, I hope his knee's okay. I hope his thigh's okay. But really, at the end of the day, Tiki, it's just I don't think he's a natural thrower of the football. And I think he's constantly trying to figure out how he wants to deliver it, and he's tinkering with his mechanics as far as how to throw. But, you know, his touch on short footballs, like whether it's shallow crossers, his ability to throw the ball up in the air and let receivers run under it on deep throws, all those things are very concerning, let alone he's just inaccurate outside the numbers as well. You know, I don't know what they were thinking down there in Houston. I really respect that coaching staff. I don't know if it was a GM decision, but to throw a guy that kind of money when you watched the games last year, did he do some solid things? Yes, but we know who was winning those games in Denver last year. It was a historic defensive effort.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was a little crazy in general.
Chris, do you have a sense of how it's going to play out in Dallas with Prescott and Tony Romo? What's your gut telling you?
I mean, my gut tells me that they continue to stay with Dak Prescott. Listen, I think the first thing we have to realize is we're being disrespectful for the game of football to think that Tony Romo, who hasn't played very much football in 2 years, can just come in there and be the Tony Romo that threw 39 touchdown passes a few years back. So I do think there would be a little bit of a breaking in curve there or knocking the rust off. It's very hard to do that. I mean, Tiki would tell you it's very hard to do that at running back, let alone a quarterback with people flying around you, all the things you have to do at the line of scrimmage. Dak has not played well the last few weeks, but regardless, they're still 11-2. He's made a lot of big plays throughout the year. And I'm honestly, this is where I get sick of the media guys because – I mean, last week I was trying to tell people that he was not the MVP of football. Now this week I'm trying to defend him and say, no, he should be the starting quarterback still. So I get crazy with the media sometimes, and I'll be like, what the hell are all of us talking about?
Yeah, you transitioned me really nicely, Chris. Now, speaking of MVP, BT and I had this conversation earlier about this stat that every quarterback MVP has, 300 yards per game and 110-plus passer rating. Right now, there's only two guys that have it, Tom Brady and Matt Ryan for the Atlanta Falcons. Do you care that Tom Brady didn't play 4 games this year, and does it affect, or should it affect, his vote from whoever's giving votes in the MVP race?
Well, I do think you have to think about it, but I do think I still would. If Tom just lit up the world and had 12 unbelievable games, I would still vote for him to be the MVP. I really would. My issue with Tom Brady as being the MVP is that there's just not the essence of MVP, I guess is what I'm saying. The New England Patriots would be 11-2 if Jimmy Garoppolo was the starting quarterback. That's not a knock on Tom Brady. It's just that New England's the best team in football. They're the best coach team in football. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo, you got to remember, he was 2-0. I mean, he was 232 yards and 3 touchdowns. It was driving down for his 4th touchdown against the Dolphins when he got hurt and hurt his shoulder, and that was in the first half of the game. So there they're a well-oiled machine. I just don't think I look at their big victories this year. 4 out of their 5 victories against winning records. It's because of their run game and LeGarrette Blount. He has kind of been the MVP in my eyes for that team. When I think MVP, I think of guys that literally their team would fall off a cliff if it weren't for them. And that takes me to like Aaron Rodgers. If Green Bay gets in the playoffs, Aaron Rodgers would be my MVP because it's no running back, it's no top-tier receiver. It's just, hey, Aaron, get in the shotgun and wheel and deal and run and do 3 cartwheels and 4 flips every play, or we can't win. So to me, it would be Aaron Rodgers. It would be a Derek Carr. It would even be a Le'Veon Bell or a Matthew Stafford.
Chris, I'm not sure how – we don't have a ton of time here. Chris Sims with us on Tiki. I'm not sure how deep you are into the evaluation, but do you have enough to at least give us a feel, whether it's Trubisky from Carolina, Deshaun Watson, Kaiser – who do you think is best equipped to play right away in the NFL next year, quarterback-wise?
Yeah, I have not really dove into that. I'm very topical as far as that goes. But the kid from North Carolina, just the clips I saw, I never really got to watch them a full game this year. Mm-hmm. You know, I try to at least give some family time on Saturdays because I'm so deep in the NFL all week long. But I will dive into draft stuff. But the kid from North Carolina, to me, just looked like the best thrower of the group. Just pure and simple, spinning the ball, throwing the ball down with power. But the kid at Watson at Clemson, he is a talented kid. He's got good size, and I do like his throwing motion. He's a natural thrower. I look at him and go, some of the flaws he has throwing the ball, they can be fixed, and he has a chance to be special. But I'm at a very early stage there, and I need to dive in. You ask me in about another month or two, and I'll give you some real good answers.
You got it, pal. Chris, awesome stuff, man. I'll see you Sunday. Thank you.
All right, guys, be good.